Hello and welcome. Welcome to you, Justin. Welcome to me. This is Lizzie. We are turning towards life once again, and we are from Thirdspace, and we love doing this, don't we, Justin? And today, Justin reliably informs me as the king of statistics that we are on our 8th birthday. And I notice that there is a very excellent, strong longing in me that because it's our 8th birthday, people might want to be in touch with us and wish us happy birthday and say some things to us so that we can make friends even more with the people who listen, Justin. Because culturally, it's normal to offer people birthday wishes. And so maybe that will be an excuse for people who haven't normally reached out to get in touch, or maybe those who have to reach out again and just say hello and share something with us so that we know you a little bit more. How delightful that would be as a kind of celebratory thing to receive on our 8th birthday, Justin. I'm so glad to be here, and it's ridiculously miraculous that it's 8 years. I don't even know how to process that information really. And here we are, and all the wonderful things that come from Turning Towards Life are extraordinary, and we never had a clue what that was going to be. So happy 8th birthday to you, Justin, and to me, and to us, and to the thing, the being that is Thirdspace, and the being that is Turning Towards Life, that holds all of this conversation and relationship and community and all of that. I'm really very glad to be here today and to celebrate that with you.
I love that idea, Lizzie, that any of you who are watching or listening might say hello. So you can do that at hello, best way, hello@turningtowards.life, or you could join our Facebook group and you could say hello there. The other things you could do, I was thinking then about gifts. So one way you could send us a gift would be to say hello. Another way to send us a gift would be find somebody that you think would benefit from being part of this conversation and send them a link to this episode or another episode. That would be such a gift to us. It might be a gift to them. You can support us, this project, at turningtowards.life. There's a support us button. But I'm also thinking, Lizzie, maybe you and I should talk a bit more about Thirdspace a little bit more often, because this conversation got born out of something that is also recently just turned 20 and is up to something in the world that is so closely in tune with the orientation of this conversation. In fact, this conversation came out of it. And we've been talking a bit about how the teaching we do around coaching is really, we increasingly think, such helpful, fruitful, life-giving learning about being a person, and being a person, how we learn about ourselves, how we learn about being in the world is learning to work with other people. So maybe we'll start a conversation about that. But I want to just say, we are 8. You, all of us, all of you who are with us, all of us together are 8, whether you've been here with us for 8 years, which some people have, or you dip in occasionally. Thirdspace is 20. And we are doing some really wonderful, rich things. And we would love to think that Turning Towards Life might introduce you to that. And there could be a very rich to and fro. So wearethirdSpace.org is the place to go and see what we're up to there. We're gearing up for one of our 2-day online Foundations of Coaching program, which is a wonderful thing, I think, for anyone to join if you're interested in just being a person. Actually, the next one's in February of 2026. There's a few months to get ready for that. And before we dive into our source for this week, Lizzie, as we always do, we've got a source that I've brought this week that's going to go in the middle of us, and it's going to open up a conversation between you and me and the source and the author of the source, and then everyone. I thought I'd just bring a few fun statistics just because I get excited like that. So it's 8 years. It's our 417th episode, which means we have recorded 208 hours or a little bit more of Turning Towards Life, if anyone wants to go and listen, which if you listened for 12 hours a day would take you 17 days to listen. So if you listen 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, it's basically a month. And if it's 8 hours a day, it's really a month. I think we've spoken between us about 1.6 million words over this time, Lizzie. We have had nearly 90,000 listens. Thank you to everyone who's listened and shared and listened and shared.
Wow.
And we've brought sources from about 405 different authors. And I went to have a look, because if you go back into the Turning Towards Life archives, you can get exposed to these 400 and something different authors. Many people we read just once, and they have something wonderful to say, and then we find someone else. And then there are some favorites, and it might not surprise you to know who the favorites are. Interestingly, none of the favorites have appeared over these 415 more than 10 times, but the people who've appeared more 10 times or so are very dear friend Rosemary Watola Trommer, very dear friend Holly Holden, David White, who we don't know personally, but who we can count as a dear friend of this work, Rainer Maria Rilke, Norman Fisher, Mary Oliver, and Maya Stein are our most frequent contributors. We've had Maya 5 times, we've had Norman 6 times, and then the others, Holly and Rainer Maria Rilke and Rosemary and David White, about 10 or 11 times. So there you go. I just thought that was fun. It was
That's
fun
so great,
to say,
Justin.
and then
And I'm
400 others.
I feel like we're redefining like who famous people are, and it's those people.
It's
like
those people.
who's famous to Turning
Famous
Towards Life?
as
It's these ones.
yes, Naomi Shihab Nye, who we featured twice. Her fantastic poem about what it is to be famous, I think, is probably worth calling out, finding at this point.
Yes.
So I want to move to this week's source. So for those of you who are with us, you can always find the source in the show notes, as well as links to all the things we're up to, how to be in contact with us, and how to join in stuff that we're up to, and how to find out about Thirdspace. So this will be in the show notes. And this is by an author we've never had before. He's Harold Schulweis, Rabbi Harold Schulweis. And the source, so where we are in the year, it's the 5th of October, 2026. It's also, we're in the midst of the Jewish New Year season, Lizzie, as you'll know. And last week was the very big day in the Jewish year that's called Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur is a day very much aligned with our body of work, because it's a day that's really about asking a big question: who am I? Who do I intend to be? What kind of life am I living? What does it take to be the kind of person I intend to be? How do I need to shift my practices and shift the stories about myself? That's the orientation of the whole day. So the book of words upon which we were drawing for the whole day includes, at least in the community that I'm a member of, has many, many, many poems. In fact, Lizzie, I was looking around, I found Rainer Maria Rilke in there. I found Rebecca Solnit, who we've also featured a few times in there, among others. And I thought this one was, it's resonant of this season that I've been involved in, many others people involved in. It's just really resonant of what we're up to together. And it's fun because one of the other things that we're doing here is learning together in a way that comes from many traditions, but the version of it that I know best actually comes from the Jewish path, which is to take a piece of text and put it in the middle and study with a friend in exactly the way that we're doing. So it feels very good for me today that we're doing that. And here we are, Harold Schulweis. So I'll read, and then I think you're going to read, Lizzie, and then we're going to talk.
I certainly am.
The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been writ. The final verdict is not in. It's never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse, to ask and give forgiveness. It's never too late to start all over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again. It is never too late to overcome despair, to turn sorrow into resolve and pain into purpose. It is never too late to alter my world, not by magic incantations or manipulations of the cards or deciphering the stars, but by opening myself to curative forces buried within, to hidden energies, the powers in my interior self. In sickness and in dying, it is never too late. Living, I teach. Dying, I teach. How to face pain and fear. Others observe me, children, adults, students of life and death, learning from my bearing, my posture, my philosophy. It is never too late. Some word of mine, some touch, some caress may be remembered. Some gesture may play a role beyond the last movement of my head and hand. Write it on my epitaph that my loved ones be consoled. It is never too late.
Thank you, Justin. So this is a poem by Harold Schulweis. The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been writ. The final verdict is not in. It's never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse and to ask and give forgiveness. It's never too late to start all over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again. It's never too late to overcome despair, to turn sorrow into resolve and pain into purpose. It's never too late to alter my world, not by magic incantations or manipulations of the cards or deciphering the stars, but by opening myself to the curative forces buried within, to hidden energies, the powers in my interior self. In sickness and in dying, it's never too late. Living, I teach. Dying, I teach. How to face pain and fear. Others observe me, children, adults, students of life and death. Learn from my bearing, my posture, my philosophy. It's never too late. Some word of mine, some touch, some caress may be remembered. Some gesture may play a role beyond the last movement of my head and hand. Write it on my epitaph, that my loved ones be consoled. It's never too late.
Thank you, Lizzie. Oh my goodness, there's so much to talk about in here. I was having a conversation last week. Actually, Lizzie, we are, as you know, because you're involved in it, in the third of the way into this year's year-long coaching course, Thirdspace one. So last week, because of my role on the program, I was talking to everyone who's on the program, and hello to all of you who are on PCCK. I spoke to all of them last weekend and the weekend before. And with one person, we were having a conversation about those moments in life where you've been doing something the same way for a really long time, and you suddenly find out that it's actually possible to do something differently. And the example we were talking about, actually, we were talking about running and discomfort in running. So I love running, and I'm not a great long distance runner, but I run and really enjoy it. And near my house, there's a route I can take, which is on the flat, and then there's this very steep hill. And I was remembering in this conversation that I had been running this very flat route for a really long time. And I had this story about the hill, which is I'm never going to be able to run up that hill. It will just be way too uncomfortable. And one day on my run, I found something in me waking up and going, I'm going to run up that hill. So that was the first thing that was new. But the other thing that needed to happen in order to run up the hill was recognizing that I was going to have a load of experiences that I probably wasn't going to welcome. So I knew actually that it was going to be painful and it was going to be tiring and my heart rate was going to go up and my legs were going to ache. And I realized that I had a load of stories about what that would be like, and I wouldn't be able to handle it. And how could I possibly do that? And that the stories I had were sort of in the background. I wasn't thinking them. I was just running around the flat and sort of living in the midst of those stories. And one day I ran up the hill and it was all the things I thought it would be. It was painful and my muscles ached and my heart rate went up. And it turned out that I was able to do way more of it than I imagined. And as well as painful, it was joyful. And that day, I became someone who runs up hills. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And I'm saying all of this, Lizzie, because it seems to me that one part of what Harold Schulweis is offering us, which is so important, is to recognize that so much of what we take to be unchangeable about ourselves actually is malleable. It really is. Whether it's, I'm going to run up the hill, or this morning I'm going to notice the resentment in me towards my partner, and instead of following the resentment, I'm going to go and make a cup of tea and offer it as an act of love. Or if it's, today I'm just going to slow down a tiny little bit more, or today I'm going to be the person who says what I actually want to say. Or maybe today I'll be the person who starts to practice listening for the first time. And I think we forget, because we are also such beings of habit and familiarity. I think we can so easily make ourselves grooves of habit and familiarity that we made without realizing that we're actually making them every day. That's what it is. Habit is a remaking every day. And it is possible to start to remake something every day in exactly the same way that we're already making things every day. That's part of it. It's one of our powers as a human being. And it really matters. Actually, I really feel it today, that it really matters because of this part that Harold writes at the end, which is that we're always teaching one another and ourselves by this. And the world seems to be headed along a path at the moment where there's an enormous upswelling of certainty, division, suspicion, fear, hate. And we could ride with that and allow ourselves to be pulled into it, or we could make the choice each day, difficult as it is, and it is really difficult, but really possible, to open ourselves to curative forces buried within and to hidden powers. And it's never too late. I'm really glad to be reminded, and then to be able to say, it's very difficult and we can do it. We can make something different to what we've made so far. It is possible. Thank goodness.
I don't even know where to start. It's so lovely listening to you and feeling the possibility of that in my own system, and immediately looking at all of the habits that I have and seeing them as things I'm remaking all the time. And some of those things I remake out of choice, and some of them I remake out of not choice. Like, oh, here we are again. And clearly I'm doing something, but I didn't feel like I chose it. It's just, here we are again. And this happens every now and again, Justin, where in a source, there's something that I need to say in response directly to the source, because in all of the reading of this, I was thinking, yes, yes, yes. But then it says, it's never too late to alter my world, not by magic incantations or manipulations of the cards or deciphering the stars. And I just want to declare that I like and have participated in magic incantations and manipulations of the cards, whatever, like as in tarot, and the stars are a massive source of wisdom for me. So I just want to declare that, in case it feels like I'm standing for not those things by reading it. Like, sometimes I need to do that within a source. So I notice in my system that if I don't say that, I don't feel truthful in being here with you. So I'm just declaring that, yes, I'm a person who is open to like many, many different things. And that me reading that doesn't mean that that's what I stand for, because the stars and cards and magic and incantations don't feel far from my reality. So I want to declare that. And I think that's part of it. It's like, what does it mean to feel this never too lateness, and to kind of, even reach for things I've never reached before? Who am I to be closed off to the stars or closed off to magic? Like, I don't know. I feel like that kind of openness is also part of the way that I know that this is all true, because I know that I can open to things. I know in my life I've been really cynical about things, and I've changed my mind. or I've changed my heart somehow. Something's changed my heart, and I've gone, oh, I'm going to see what that is. Like maybe I had a judgment on that, and I needn't have. And then often the judgments that I have kind of go with whatever the habit is that I've made, and also the habit of judging something itself seems like sometimes it becomes old, and I go, I think I need to take a deep breath and get over myself and give something a go, and not feel like I'm excluding myself from something for something that I haven't really examined very well or something. So I feel like this beautiful invitation to start all over again counts for all of the kind of compartments I've made for things that are, I don't know, beyond rational or not grounded, or whatever the thing is that I've got a kind of demand for something, that I can open myself, and I can open myself. And I'd say it's like a work in progress as well. Like I notice loads of cynicism arises in response to lots of things. And I kind of have to go, okay, that's a part of me here, and I'm going to come beyond it. And in that beyondness, I can feel the never too late to alter my world feeling. And the bit that I think is super moving in here, in that context, is this first bit of the last word has not been spoken, and never shall it be. Like, as in, I think one of my big pieces of life is forgetting that there isn't a destination. It's like I think that there is, as a kind of habitual way of being. And so to be introduced to this in the beginning of the final verdict is not in, for me, it's like it will never be in. Like there's alwaysness. And I don't have to think that there's a doneness about anything ever, is such a relief, because I feel like a kind of an internal pressure of destination a lot of the time, like reaching for, well, what's this going to end up like or something. But of course, there is never any end. This is just a massive process that we're in, which gives us all permission to do exactly as Harold Schulweis is inviting us to, is that we can love again, or that we can forgive again, or that we can really live in the never too lateness. And I think it's also to do with, as we get older, I feel like, my niece has just gone to acting school, and she keeps saying to me, it's okay, you can do acting. There's a 60-year-old there. They just come to it. They're doing it. It's amazing. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah. There's another train. Like, it's not like we miss a train or something, or that there was a destination that we missed. It's that life is this big, old, extraordinarily mystical, complex process, and we can participate in it however we choose. And I really appreciate how you're saying that it's hard, because it is hard. And you said it's hard and it's really possible. Like, those two things are both true. And so I'm really grateful to feel this. What it feels to me like in my system is like an offer of continuity, and an offer of ongoingness, an offer of no end in sight, so that we can feel the freedom and the human power that's afforded to us to participate in the way that we wish and that we intend. And the way that you described Yom Kippur is like, who do I want to be, and what do I want to change, and what practices do I want to keep going with and stop? It's such an important and beautiful inquiry to be in. And it's throwing me, all of our sources do this. It throws me into a world of wondering and curiosity and not knowing and undefinedness, which is really wonderful and also discombobulating. And I need to take a breath and say yes, as I always do.
I'm glad you can have a bit of an argument with Harold about magic and stars and all of that, because you'll know this, Lizzie, of course, because we've talked about it and it's what we've been doing for years. There is so important in this conversation that our uniqueness comes forward, our differences get a place, that we can say both yes and no. Otherwise, all we're doing is we're just agreeing with a bit of writing that someone else did, which is not that interesting. I think that the tussle with ourselves and with each other and with the writing is really important. So I really appreciate that you brought that in, and that your stand is different to Harold's. excellent, how wonderful. Because, I mean, I think in huge part because of this part that Harold says at the end, which is, we're always teaching. We're always teaching one another. So this is Harold's teaching, and now we've heard Lizzie's teaching. So we learn from you about how you orient yourself towards your life by how you speak and what you speak about and what you choose to say. And I think that's another part of the never too lateness about this. I'm so glad that this is here, which is the final verdict is never in, because how we lived ripples out into the world of others all the time. And we can't know what the significance of you just choosing to say what you said about cynicism and openness and how that's resonating in me and the conversations I go and have with other people or other people who are listening. So I think it's an extraordinary thing to be reminded that we have extraordinary power. We have such power in how we speak and how we move and how we gesture. We're powerful beyond measure, actually. And we're teaching all the time. So it seems to me that part of what I get reminded about by hearing Harold's word is that it really matters. This really matters. And it's not just about us. And we can teach, we can choose what to teach, which is the same as choosing what kind of person to be. What kind of person do I want to be? What do I really want to stand for? I have no idea what impact it will have on others. But what I do know is that I do have some choices about how I comport myself, how I bear myself in my life. And it's so much better question, I think, than one of the things that I often ask myself, Lizzie, knowing you, is I'll ask myself if I'm really stuck in a habitual way of seeing or saying or doing something, I'll ask myself, how would Lizzie be in this? What way of being is Lizzie teaching that is an opportunity for me to take up if I wish? Like, how would you move yourself and how would you speak yourself and how would you listen? And there's you and there's all the other people who matter and people who I don't know, who I come across, and Harold. And I think it's a much better question than how do I get the same things as somebody else? How do I have the same clothes as this person or the same fame as this person because the thing that is never finished is the what kind of person am I being and what place do I take up in the world because of it. And it is hard. And one of the reasons it's hard is because we get really, really loyal to we might have a loyalty to something in like our family system that came before that doesn't really help our lives. It's a sort of looking back into the life before, or we get loyal to particular feelings. Like I always want to feel sad and never want to feel joyful, or I'll only feel joyful and I'll never feel sorrow. So I think that's one of the things that I'm feeling very strongly is this matters not just because of our own lives, but because we're never done in the possibility of other people being brought life by our presence in some way. That's never done either. And it's never done even up until our last breath. And there's this amazing book that you and I know, Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich, which is about a man who's dying, who learns something just before he dies, like literally just before he dies. He learns something about love that he's never learned before, and it really matters. And it doesn't matter that it's in the last second. It's never too late to say yes to something that is arising, even though it might be the most difficult thing we have ever done with our lives. I really want to say that. I partly want to say it to remember it for me, that when I think I'm done, is to have words like this that remind me, you're not done yet. You're not done yet. Another moment is arising, and it may be the most painful thing you've ever done, but you can turn towards something that you've never turned towards, even in that moment, and there's something new in that might save the world. And I don't mean save the world in terms of sorting out all the big and complex difficulties, but might save and redeem something very precious in ourselves and for all the ones who are around us. It's never too late.
I really, like, my being, like how I feel in this moment is really taken by, so one of the things, Justin, that turning towards life feels like to me is a kind of very different possibility to what normally happens in the world, is in terms of how people speak to one another and treat one another. And you're talking about when we have some kind of change of heart, like even Ilyich at the end of his life. And he said yes to something. He saw something about love that he hadn't known and opened himself, softened himself somehow in the face of death. And me feeling what I felt about those 3 lines in Harold's poem and communicating them to you, and then being received, that my response to them being received by you in the way that you've received it, has just kind of highlighted for me how it's very important to me that turning towards life is making a world that we would love to belong inside of, rather than contributing to one we wouldn't like to belong inside of. And so me having I think you used the word a tussle with Harold's determination in this piece of writing. I God knows what he thinks more widely, but in this piece of writing about magic and stars and cards, me saying, just so that you know, that's not where I stand as a person. And I couldn't not say it. Otherwise I couldn't have any more thoughts, you know, that kind of thing that arises in you to go, actually, that's not true for me. I have to say something. I think you were talking about kind of saying yes, but I also think it's true about saying no. Like sometimes I feel things so strongly and I really want to say no, and I do say no inside of myself. But I think at this time in the world, there are times when it really matters that I don't keep my no quiet, but that I actually am counted in the people who say no to some things that happen in the world. And for each of us, it's a journey to be someone who says no. And we're all differing from one another these days. Like there's so many places to stand. It's all been sliced up and we can stand in so many different places. And for us to be listening to one another and saying, oh yes, this is good that we don't necessarily agree with one another, or something in the third person's source that we bring, or that we can stand somewhere and still be respected, and we can still be kind to one another, and we can, like, this is the world that I'm longing for to be true, that it doesn't feel very true in the world at the moment, where we can really learn from one another. Like you say, like you can say something and I can go, well, I don't agree, but I'm willing to be changed by you. So there's different parts of me that can be here at the same time. The part of me that disagrees with you, but the part of me that loves you, and the part of me that wants to be changed, and the part of me that wants to learn from you, and all of that, that if we could be together like that, it's such a different situation that gets made. So I'm very glad that we are that for each other, and that turning towards life, it affords us the opportunity to be that with one another. Because who knows, we might not be like that with one another if we're walking along just having a coffee chatting. Like this kind of presence, and that I'm looking at you in the eyes, and that we give each other space, and that we're steady in ourselves as we sit here. And that's what moves me about the community as well, because we're here with us. We have a responsibility, presence-wise, to everyone who's listening. And it brings us to something good, that we're all here together means something. It changes what I say. It changes it regulates me to be truthful rather than flippant or habitual in myself. And that's, I think, really important to me. That's part of the intentionality of the space that we're making here, Justin, in these conversations, is that we're with one another in a way that's a tiny piece of the world, but not tiny at the same time. And when you said we had 90,000 listens, that's quite a lot of people in the world. because there might be more than one people listening because they were driving a car at the time or something as well. It's quite a lot of listens. And so this whole it's never too late, and the kind of magnitude of humanity, but also the every small act of waking up or choosing to love again or to feel hope or whatever, they all have their place, and every single little one is important. And I think in the overwhelm of life and world events, it's so hard sometimes to really believe that. But in this moment here with you, I know it's true that every small act of some piece of forgiveness, or like you said, doing the hardest thing you've ever done, but saying yes when you're really defensive, but saying yes to forgiveness and making that cup of tea in a pool of resentment. And afterwards, how relieving it is to have done the thing that creates more connection or more love or more forgiveness. We long at the deepest level for that. And yet it's so much in the way, so much of the time. So I'm really moved by Turning Towards Life and who we are here, Justin, and who knows, who gets to have this in their hands, and that we know this isn't a world that we would rather get rid of for another, but we're making a world here that we would stand by, and that feels like it has goodness in it, in its heart. So I'm really, really grateful in this moment for all of that.
Well, thank you, Lizzie, as we come to an end, for the fierceness and the love and everything that you're saying. And it reminds me then to say, in response to you, I think Turning Towards Life and Thirdspace and what so many people are doing in the world are taking a stand for this that we've been talking about, which is it's never too late to participate in making the kind of world that we want to live in, and being how we humans can be with one another. And I hope that what Turning Towards Life won't be, we've talked about how sometimes people listen to it in hospital or going to sleep or all of those kind of things, which I think is lovely and wonderful. And I'm so glad it's that. And I also think, and it's been very present in this conversation, is not intended to be a balm, like something that has us go to sleep to the world. In fact, quite the opposite. Like, it's meant to wake us up to big questions. It's meant to wake us up to, where do I want to stand? What do I want to say? But also, as you're saying, how can I be the kind of person with others, even when, and maybe especially when, the inevitable will see things differently? How do we be kind and learn and stay open and not try and collapse the world down to certainty and defeating one another and all of those things that are going on in the world right now? This may be loving and gentle in many ways, but also, I hope, stirring and inspiring, and also challenging, like it asks something. We're asking something of ourselves as we do this each time, and Harold in his stand is asking something of us, and then we're trying to work out who are we called to be, even if it's really hard. Who are we called to be? That's the question I think we're asking. Not something just to smooth everything over and pretend that we don't have to care and we don't have to participate. So what a thing to have completed 8 years of this conversation, to have all those millions of words and all of those people that we've learned from, and all of you who are alongside us. Please take up Lizzie's invitation. We would really like to hear from you. We'd really like to be in conversation with you. hello@turningtowards.life is the best place to reach us. And we would really like you to share this with other people so that they can benefit too and be part of the conversation. So onwards, Lizzie, into our 9th year. Here we go. I just kind of want to say, buckle up. Who knows what we're bringing? What conversations we're going to get into.
Yeah.
What a joy to do this together.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.